Greetings, hi everyone. My name is Tanatswa, and I am your co-host for the Gen Z Millionaires podcast. We are a podcast that's based on youth entrepreneurship and youth empowerment. So basically, all we're going to be doing on this podcast is based on the youth of Zimbabwe. We're going to be portraying their nascent potentials, their nascent talents in business, sports, and politics. So today is our first guest. I'm joined by one of my brother, Donell Munjeri. He's a public speaker. He's a quite phenomenal young person and he's doing the most in the world of public speaking in Zimbabwe. Welcome, Donell. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the welcome.
I'm so excited to have you as my first guest. So let's get to business. So today we're going to be talking about how public speaking has actually shaped your life and how you're actually involved in your career and what are your future projections as a public speaker here in Zimbabwe. So you can kind of share with them what you actually think about yourself.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, when we speak about public speaking, a lot of people think about the skill. That's important. But how I have approached the element to do with public speaking, if I could call it the element of communication, is I've embraced it as an art.
Okay.
Because when you take it as a skill, you see it for its utility, what it can do for you, not what you can do for it.
Right. Okay.
Because my involvement in public speaking, especially in Zimbabwe, is to be a part of the vanguards who are making sure that they propel the element of executive communication, of professional communication. So personally, I've embraced it as an art. It has taught me elements to do with time management. It has taught me elements to do with how you handle people, not only your audience, but the people that you engage with on a day-to-day basis. And most importantly, it has molded me into an individual of character. Why is that so? You understand from the basics of communication. Before you deliver, you prepare. Preparation is important in public speaking. So you allow yourself to go through a process where you research, where you try to understand the information that you're going to give, because it's not a self-centric kind of discipline. It's more of your audience. It's audience-centric. So it teaches you to give more than you receive. And in the equation, as you give, you receive more.
All right, that's quite interesting. That's quite phenomenal. I actually didn't know that public speaking can actually be an art. I've been told by many people that the whole issue of presentation, actually, with public speaking, you can actually present yourself very well. Like when you step into a room, the way you talk, the way you articulate your projections or your mind, it's actually quite representable. And that can actually be quite conducive, in building your character and building your profile. So, what made you join public speaking? Why choose public speaking?
All right, that's an interesting question because I cannot say that I chose public speaking. I think it's the inverse. Public speaking chose me. Because what happened was, as I was growing up, I had the most amazing opportunity by God's grace to be given platforms and opportunities where you get to speak, where you get to communicate. And in the process of time, I find myself saying, you know what, I think this lady called public speaking is approaching me. I think it's time I pay attention to her. And by paying attention to her, we started the conversation. We started talking. We went on a number of dates that a lot of people don't understand, don't even know of. So we spoke a lot. We spent arduous times having a conversation and falling in love. And after that, I thought, you know what? I think it's time that we get married. And here we are.
Well, congratulations on your union.
I appreciate. And we're not looking forward to divorcing anytime soon. So give us, I think, the next century or so.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
it's quite reasonable. Right? Well, so in the School of Public Speaking, right? Let's talk about the School of Public Speaking in
Yes.
Zimbabwe, the institution. What services are you offering to the young people of Zimbabwe in terms of public speaking? And are you only offering public speaking in English only, or are you also do other languages like Shona, Ndebele, etc.?
Thank you so much. Allow me to say that the School of Public Speaking is an institution that was founded and is under the vision and direction of Dr. Blessing Mandipira. He's the captain of the ship, who is a man, in my opinion, and in my experience, who is very much geared and much ready to help, especially the young people, to take their communication to the next level. But you've asked about what we offer and what we have to present to the young people of Zimbabwe. Like I've told you, at the School of Public Speaking, we do not approach communication as a skill. It's important, the skill component, it's there, but we appreciate it as an art. Firstly, we teach you how to construct something on paper. We teach you how to be in a position where you can create vocal image. We teach you how to be able to learn your body language, your mannerisms, your iconography in communication. But most importantly, we also have a section where we speak to the element of grooming and etiquette. We speak as a communicator, how are you supposed to present yourself? How are you supposed to carry yourself? When you speak about the sacrosanct element of time.
Wow.
How are you supposed to handle it? So we have what we call the three universal laws of communication. The first is the law of the clock, which speaks to the element of time management, how you are supposed to weave into understanding time. From the law of the clock, we have what we call the law of the gym, where we speak of the element that it is not enough to know. What you need to know is to practice, and practice, I mean, religiously. We then teach you, inculcate the spirit of practice and preparation. And finally, and most importantly, we have what we call the law of the bubblegum that speaks to the hygiene, oral hygiene first, and of course, the overall grooming.
Okay.
And finally, we have a manual that we offer that has to do with your dining etiquette, that has to do with your executive etiquette, that has to do with your management etiquette, that has to do with building systems and infrastructure that are embedded with the element of the appreciation and understanding of the holistic component of communication. So we offer a diverse, rather if I could call it a plethora of services, but all underpinned by this sacrosanct element of professional communication.
Wow. All right, so someone has to learn all this for the whole 6 weeks.
Yes.
6 weeks time, you are supposed to be mastering all this stuff.
Precisely so. You see, the world that we're living in is quite fast paced. The way things are set in now, it means they change and they move again. So you need to be in a position that you are able to be agile and responsive. So we're quite deliberate in ensuring that our program is tailored for 6 weeks for the certified communicator. But we have other programs such as executive speaking. Those tend to last much longer because we want to ensure that we embed in you the principles. But for the certified communicator, that course, we allow it to adopt an exponential rate of inculcation. Why? We want to teach you to be agile. We want to teach you to be in a position where you're able to change and adapt. That you're called in to deliver a presentation. If the person who has called you in can change the briefing 15 minutes before your presentation, you don't say, you know what, I'm relinquishing the opportunity. You say, I'm still able to deliver. So that's why we are quite deliberate with the time that we use, so that we teach you to be in the process where you're able to be competitive, you're able to disrupt, but most importantly, you're able to adapt.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
That's interesting. So when someone actually gets back on this quest, what's your advice to them? Like, what would you have to say to those people who are interested in public speaking, especially the youngsters? Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's an important, I mean, stream that we need to focus on: the youngsters, the young people, the youths, especially cognizant of the fact that today it's National Youth Day.
Exactly.
Yes, we're celebrating the young people from the ages, according to the UNESCO definition, they say it's between 15 to 24, depending with the context, but it can also last between 15 to 35.
35, yeah, exactly.
So what I can say as advice is, as Mr. Tembekwai always says, it is your ability to communicate, or the lack of it, that often determines the level at which you succeed. I will repeat that.
Okay.
It is your ability to communicate, or the lack of it, that often determines the level to which you succeed. So at the School of Public Speaking, we teach you as an individual to be able to communicate. But remember, it's not a skill that we're teaching, it's an art. So when you have something from an appreciation of an art, it allows your mind to expand. So it means that if you're not maybe a verbal communicator, but you're a content creator, you use digitization to communicate, you are able to communicate with that. If you're an individual who's into graphics design, you're not speaking, you're not using verbal communication, you're using non-verbal communication, you are able to communicate. You're a gentleman who's showing up for an interview. How are you supposed to be adorned? You haven't spoken, but just your attire has to speak before you enunciate anything. So I think the advice that I would give to the young people is that be in a position where you embrace that it is your ability to communicate, or the lack of it, that often determines the level to which you succeed.
All right, that's quite phenomenal. So basically, all we're just saying is that the level at which you communicate determines how you're going to be able to be taken seriously by other people, and how you're determining yourself for success. That's clear. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Now, moving on to the second question. Can you please highlight the importance of networking in organizations such as Youth Embassy in Action or the Ignite Youth organization? Because honestly, I used to think that maybe these are just organizations where you can just go and work with other people. But after joining an organization such as Youth in Action, I started to realize there's actually more to it than just joining the organization. I got to make new friends, networking, and life becomes easier when you're people around you. So can you please highlight to these people how important it is to actually join those organizations, and how it has actually shaped you and your career?
All right. Firstly, allow me to answer the question on how it has shaped me.
All right.
We speak about Youth in Action, for example.
Yeah.
I met Marshall, I think, about 5 to 6 years ago.
Wow.
and we met at an event where we both were facilitators. It was a digital dreaming workshop hosted by Paranta, I remember.
Okay.
After I was done speaking, he said, "You know what? I love the presentation. Can we have the conversation?" Afterwards, the conversation, here we are, we're working together. So I think as young people, what we need to understand and embrace when it comes to network, I'll give you two hints insofar as understanding networks. Before I give you the two, allow me to give you the statement that is the mantra of networking that we embrace, especially in Africa, where we say, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go further, go together. So, as a young person, what you need to understand when it comes to networks, there is what we call vertical networking and horizontal networking. So, vertical networking has to do with you need a mentor. My mentor, Mr. Dr. Mandipira, he is a phenomenal gentleman, I tell you. He is able to recommend opportunities to you even when you're not in the room.
Seriously.
He is one person where he can have an opportunity that he can take up, but he will recommend it to you, and not only recommend, he'll give you the infrastructure, the capacity to be in a position where you're able to deliver. So vertical networking is important. As a young person, you need a mentor. Be it it's your spiritual walk, it's in business, entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you need a mentor. Speaking journey, personally, like for myself with Dr. Manipura, he is my mentor insofar as that is concerned. So you need to embrace vertical mentorship. But also, whilst you have vertical mentorship, you also need horizontal mentorship that speaks to horizontal networking, that speaks to the element that whereby you are able to network with your fellow peers.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? There are many young people who are doing phenomenally well.
Yeah,
right? You know those individuals. I've got one individual that I know who's doing phenomenally well, Tanaka Mitsakanyi. These are individuals you need to know. You have Munashe Jumbe, you have Marshall Pariwa, you have, you can name them, right? So whenever you engage on a horizontal perspective, you network with those people, they have opportunities, they can call you in, right? Marshall did the same for me. When we started working together, he would recommend opportunities. Brother, I've got an event. Would you mind to be the director of the ceremony? Come in and speak. So I think that's how we also need to embrace networking. But a bonus of the two, there's what we call the 3-to-1. It means that whenever you embark on a quest to build a network, you need to understand that a network is a relationship. So what happens is you don't need to look for a network for its capacity to feed you, but what also do you have to give to it? That's how you can sustain it. Because if it's constantly you taking, at one point or the other, the person is going to say, you know what, this networking is not beneficial. It has to be reciprocal.
Yes.
You need to have mutual benefit. So the best way to ensure that you accommodate that or you embrace that is you use the 3-to-1 model. This is what it means. You give three things, you're able to ask for one thing.
Wow.
So a lot of people, when they enter into networking relationships, all they want is, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get?
What's in it for me?
The best way, especially for young people, the best way is look for somebody you look up to. Allow them to know that you want to come in and do things for them for free. What Mr. Tembekwai calls freemium, right? 3 frees, you end up getting 1 premium. So it's how best we can embrace this element of networking and expand our base of knowledge and application.
All right. Yeah, so I think joining these organizations can actually help you, develop yourself.
Precisely
It's
so.
quite phenomenal. We've got young entrepreneurs and we've got young people who are actually establishing these institutions, like Youth Embassy, Ignite Youth Organizations, and the Youth in Action. And if I'm not mistaken, on the 20th, the Youth in Action is actually having one of their high performance sessions.
Precisely so.
Yeah, so I think it's actually worth it. And I think everybody should actually be interested in attending that event.
100%.
It's going to be a lot of networking, growth, and personal development. I think those are actually the kind of events that we're supposed to be working on right now.
That is
Especially
true.
considering our age and where we actually want to go. Because I was actually watching Mr. Sharp saying yesterday, the average age right now in Zimbabwe, it's between 15 and 24, right? Which contributes to 62% of our population. So this means we've got 62% of our population right now is very young, it's below 25. And imagine if we actually work together as a team, we collaborate, like what Mr. VT once said at the HHCC. He said, collaboration is competition. So we should actually collaborate and we can actually find
That is true. That is true. Because you mentioned about joining organizations such as Youth in Action, such as Youth Embassy. I think what I've come to understand is, as young people, we're so obsessed with the thinking that we're the future, but majority of us are not being deliberate in building that future.
Very
You
true.
understand?
So true.
So when we join such institutions, what we need to understand, what I've observed, is they offer a plethora of opportunities. Because when it comes to event planning, you can go in and volunteer. Because a lot of people want to partake of opportunities and then get paid at the same time. When you're still starting, it doesn't work, especially between the ages of 20 to 25, especially in your early 20s. What you need is to build network. What you need to do is to build experience, because we're living in the fourth industrial revolution, and your social media page is your curriculum vitae.
Exactly.
Right?
That's just it.
Exactly. So when you participate more, you volunteer more, you are available when these opportunities are out. Definitely, you're building a network base. You are refining your skills. You're making sure that you're present and you're available. One day, trust me, it will be a different
Yeah,
conversation.
it's true. One day you can definitely pay off. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially I like how you highlighted the whole issue of personal brand. You know, Munashi Jumbe is a friend of mine. He's always advising me that your socials, all your social medias are supposed to be something that's quite relevant, and it's actually supposed to be a symbol of who you are and what you really are and onto. So the issue of personal brand, that's quite phenomenal. And can you please highlight that one also? Please extra.
All right. When it comes to personal branding, what you need to understand is you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be real.
Okay.
Because when you try to play a particular persona, yet you're trying to brand who you are, it means that at a day that you're not feeling too okay to play the persona, you're going to default to the actual person who's you. And your audience would have bought into the persona that you sold them. When they see the real you, they're asking, what is this? So when it comes to personal branding, understand who you are, understand what part you fit in the puzzle of whatever initiative you're trying to venture into, and allow yourself to seamlessly fit in like a jigsaw puzzle. So one of the things that I can speak to when it comes to personal branding is you need to be in a position before you show the person you want the world to see. Be that person. Because John C. Maxwell states and says that character is who you are when no one is watching.
Yeah, that's
So personal branding should find its power in private, but its demonstration in public.
public.
Because when you find the power in public and you want the demonstration in private, it doesn't work. The equation doesn't tally. So when you want to brand yourself, before you post, before you show anything to the world, sit down with yourself, ask yourself, who am I? Who do I want to project to the world? And am I willing to stay consistent
With that.
with that person?
All right.
That is in my mind what personal branding is. Because personal branding can also happen on a day when you're not in the mood, and then somebody comes across and then they see you like, wait, let me put on the. There's a video that I saw of a lady who lost, I think, about 30,000 followers. Why? Because the filter that she was using turned off midstream, and people got to see who she truly was. Like, oh my goodness, is this who you are? But if she had embraced who she was, shown her to the world, to be honest, the world would have embraced that person. But the fact was, the world was sold out to a persona who she was not. So at the end of the day, you don't want to experience burnout by playing a persona. Just be yourself, and everything will fall into place. What happened with Mr. Tembekwayo started with the hello family. Now it's become iconic.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened with this gentleman who does food tasting and everything? Sup, good
Sup, good
people.
people.
You see, and there's Jay Bikita. He says, Dave, guys,
Dave,
you
guys,
see.
you see.
You see, so they embrace something they find resonant with, something that they love. So even myself, when I watch Jay's videos, the first thing that I'm looking for is the Dave, guys, you see.
Exactly.
So it's all about embracing those things. Just embrace who you are. That's what we need. Because if you try to play a particular persona, that's not who you are. Right? It means that you have to sell the idea of that person to yourself first, and then you sell it to us. So just be who you are, but make sure that you're being ethical in being who you are. I don't mean be something else. Just be yourself, be ethical, be morally upright, and show it to the world.
Very true. Well,
Yes.
nothing beats reality. Thank you so much for that.
That's
quite
true.
phenomenal.
That's true. That's
Nothing
true.
really beats reality. So, with the youth embassy, I've noticed you are quite engaged with that organization. What are you guys working on? What are your agendas? What's your mission as the youth embassy? And how can I actually be part of it? And how can I actually be involved with the youth embassy?
All right, let me start with the final one, going to the first one. If you want to be involved, you want to be a part, we're available on Instagram and on Facebook. There's information on our platforms. Reach out to us. The team will definitely revert back to you. We'll give you the entire process on how you can become a member. But before you become a member, there are a set of questions they will ask so as to understand where your passions lie so that we can best help you in as much as you're helping us to help the world. So when we speak now of what our mission is, youth embassy. So, what is an embassy? An embassy typically is a delegation that is sent maybe by a state to a different location to represent the interest of the nation. So, our interests largely are youth centric. We want to help the youth. And as we help the youth, we want the youth to actually play a part in so far as helping the youths. That's number one. Number two, we want to be in a position where we can be advocates of hope, be it in business, be it in governance, in diplomacy, in social change. We want to be pragmatic advocates of hope. So, our responsibility is to train young people to be leaders. And after we have trained them, we embrace the same application of an embassy. We deploy them into different parts of their communities, their organizations, their societies to go back and implement and recruit a team, an army of young people who want to bring about social and economic change.
Wow.
So basically, that's what we do, and we're very passionate about it. We love what we do. We are crazy about what we do because we understand the future is not for anybody else. The future is ours. So we exert as much passion as we can, and so far as building it, we're intentional about it, and we're definitely building it brick
by
by
brick.
brick.
All right. Well, at some point we're gonna get there for sure. I like it. I really like it.
Yes.
And also in the youth in action, you're the research and development manager, and you're the one who's responsible for R&D at the youth in action. How's that shaping you, and what are your trajectories? What's your vision with the youth in action as the R&D manager? What do you want to do in the next maybe let's say 5 years? Because I know Marshall personally, and Marshall said to me, "Yeah, we want to reach out to everybody in Zimbabwe. We want to change lives. We want to provide inspiration, and we want people to actually feel engaged with such an organization." So, Youth in Action is quite a big organization.
Precisely so.
We're celebrating our fourth year, our fourth anniversary. We're celebrating very soon next week. So, with such an organization, I feel like we're on the right track. But personally, what do you really think of the Youth in Action in the next 5 years? Where do you think we're going to be at?
All right. Allow me, if I may, to say I won't explicitly tell you what the plans are because they're still in motion.
Okay.
But what I can say is play this video 5 years later. The tagline is watch the space. And when it comes to my vision for Youth in Action, I don't know if you've ever read about the Iwakura delegation. This is a delegation that was sent from Japan to Europe and to the Americas to study their systems and their way of business, their way of doing things when Japan was adopting and embracing what we call splendid isolation. That delegation of about 8 people went, studied for 3 or so years, came back and taught the rest of the people what they had learned. And look at Japan today, one of the major superpowers.
Exactly.
So my idea with the research and development department is to try and understand that there are initiatives that we can try to discover when we are at home, but we want to understand what the other youths who are on the other side of the barricade are doing, what the youth in Japan, in the US and the youth in Canada, the youth in Rwanda, the youth in South Africa, what are they doing that we can also implement back at home and try to contextualize to the needs of our geographical location. So all that we are striving to do is to see how best we can reach out to the young people, how best we can give them platforms and opportunities, but most importantly, how we can make them competitive on the global space to be in a position where they're able to sit at the table that is going to be conducting global conversations that are shaping the global narrative. That's our desire, to be in a position where we can fix ourselves there and make sure that the organization is serving both the youth as well as the nation and the continent.
That's very true.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. And that's quite phenomenal, yo. All right. So now moving on to the last question. What do you think of the massive potential that we have here in Africa? As in the youngsters who are performing very well in business, people like Nasha Jumbe, Marshall Mpario, as we said. What do you think of these people? Because they have a massive potential, and we can actually see their trajectory. We can actually prophesy or predict that this person in the next 5 to 10 years, they're gonna be big, they're gonna be bigger than their name actually. What do you actually think of the other people out there in Zimbabwe who are actually trying their best to make a difference, to make a dent in the world?
What we need to understand is that as human beings, as the Bible says, time and chance happens to us all. And Robert Liardon always says that whilst you're waiting on God, do what a waiter does, serve. So as young people, when you realize, remember the element we're talking about, opportunities and volunteering. We have the energy of the day, and we should not put it to waste by doing things that are vice. You figure out you've got a passion. Do what Ashake in Lonely at the Top says, what I love, I'm going to do it with all of my heart. And when you do it with character. Do it with the understanding that whether people are watching or not, I'm going to put in all in. What happened with Comic Elder?
Yeah.
Before the Raptors and everything, he was just creating content.
Exactly.
He was doing what he loved. He was serving us humor. But now look at where he is.
Yeah,
Typically, his videos range nothing less than 10,000 going up. You look at Trevor Noah, the same thing. He has now hosted the Grammys how many times? I think about 3 times.
Yeah.
But what he started with was passion. So as young people, there are moments you do things that you're passionate about, and there are moments where you look for a gap in the market to offer products and services that solve challenges so that you can get the upside of what you're looking for. At times it's success, but most importantly, we all want the bag. Right. But in doing that, embrace these 2 components. There are moments you do things that you're passionate about, but there are sometimes some moments where you do things that you're passionate about, but they don't pay. So that way you need to be in a position where you look for ways to finance the things that you're passionate about and eventually make sense. But one thing I can say, if we can look at the gig economy, not the gig economy, let's look at the creative economy in Zimbabwe. The trajectory of the creative economy in Africa is that by 2030, it's going to be worth, I think, about $3.7 billion. So it means that it's a booming industry that young people should definitely tap into. Because content creation will allow you to be in a position where you can pursue your passion and earn at the same time. You can get an opportunity to understand that your market is no longer limited to Zimbabwe. It's not limited to Africa, but you have a global market. So it's an opportunity for us as young people not to wallow back and wait and say, we have a high rate of unemployment. What I studied for is not what I'm actually getting to work in. Sure, that happens. It's life. But when it happens, what are you going to do? You need to be resilient. How can you be resilient? The first thing you need, everybody's got a phone. We're living in the 4th industrial revolution. Utilize this platform, do something. But if you don't want to go in the digital space, venture into agriculture. That's the backbone of this nation. Definitely do poetry. Definitely venture into god breeding. Definitely look for many
just find something else to do, right?
Yourself, you're into mining. So it's one of those things you can always look into.
We talk about mining actually. I was actually talking to one of my friends this morning, and we were together at school in Bulawayo, and we were learning together. So he was actually telling me that he recently bought a car, and he bought a new car. The first car that he actually had was involved in the terrible car crash, and he crashed. So he bought another one, the second one, and he's only 20, by the way. We're talking about someone who's 20 and he's managed to buy 2 cars within a period of 1 year. So you can only imagine how quite conscientious we are in terms of what we are supposed to do and what we have to do. I mean, if you go to places like Chikutu, Kanoma, Kwekwe, Gwanda, maybe sometimes Bulawayo, but Chikutu, Kanoma, Kwekwe mainly, you find out that the average age, someone who's my age right now, is also involved in mining. They're actually working every single day. They're actually going to the pits. They're going underground. They're looking for gold. They're actually finding a way to make a difference. So we're quite conscientious on that one. But personally, I like to say, I feel like we are supposed to include the government at some point. We're supposed to work with the government. Our Ministry of Youth, we're supposed to work with them and collaborate with them and find a way to actually develop our skills, our mentality, and upgrade our skills and techniques in any faculty that we're actually specializing on. And I feel like we're supposed to add on to these people and include them, then they can actually be able to assist us. Because imagine someone is 20 and already has bought 2 cars within a period of 1 year. That person, when he gets accurate mentorship, when he gets to sit at the right tables with proper mining experts from maybe Blanket Mine, Frederick Baker or Canterbury Goodbye. Imagine he gets to steal them and talk to them. What do you think is going to happen to them in the next maybe 5 or 10 years or so? So I feel like that's something that we need to work on. And I don't know, what's your perspective on that one? What's your thought?
Well, my perspective is certainly we need to engage the government. And as well, the government has tried by all means necessary and all means possible to ensure that they engage us as the young people, giving us platforms, initiatives, trying to ensure that we build on the first the knowledge, and then the platform where we can exercise our skills. But I think one thing that is important to also mention, if you're to speak about this conversation, if you're to allow me to use the story of David. David, at one point in time, was looking after his father's sheep. And then it so happened that the Philistines had defiled the armies of the Lord. And it happened that the armies of Israel, these are men who had been training for decades, training. These were men of war, men of valor. But at this time, they couldn't stand tall against Goliath. But there came in a young man who was coming in from tending the flock, comes in to ask, who is this man who defiles the armies of the Lord? And in doing so, the most important thing here was faith, in the understanding that it's not my capacity, but it's God who's going to help me to defeat this giant. But this is the part that I want to get to. When Saul adorned David with his armory, David could not even walk, let alone lift the sword. And then he said, you know what? I won't be able to defeat this giant with this. Let me take this off. And then the Bible records and said he picked, I think, 3 smooth stones, and then he put them in his saddle. And then he went against Goliath. And when he went against Goliath, Goliath was coming towards him. But what happened was David ran and pulled out a stone, slung it to him. He was hit on the forehead. So if we were to analyze what happened, David looked for his niche. He said, you know what? The armor is good. Like the team, they've been using it all their years. But for me, it's not, I'm not cut out for that. Is that okay? Let me use something that I'm passionate about, something that I've studied, something that I know, something that I have an understanding. You put me, I'm not equal to anyone. I'm second to no one. You put me, I'm doing it. They come against me, they better have their odds. Because definitely I'm whipping. That was the mentality that David had. From the mentality, he understood that it's not enough to have passion, to have the skills and the expertise. I need to run. So there are people who constantly procrastinate. Well, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm talented at this. Well, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, yeah. But David understood the power of speed. I'm passionate. I'm capable. I've got a phone. I've got a tripod. I'm doing it.
Let me go get it.
Is that okay? So Goliath was coming in as somebody who had knowledge. If you read the text, it says that, I think it was Saul who told David, he says, you are a youth and you're trying to fight now. But Goliath has been fighting from his youth. So that's a difference. You're being told that the market has been in operation
since you were born.
But here you are, you're trying to go against the market. But what you need first is the faith. Because the Bible says, in all your ways acknowledge the Lord and he will make your path straight. In all your doings, make sure you remember the Lord, for it is he who gives you the power to make wealth. Faith is important. God is important. The second thing you need is the mentality. To know that I can succeed against any odds. You fail, you don't take it as failure. You take it as tuition. I'm learning, I'm coming in again. The second time, the same mentality. You embrace failure not because it is a projection of you, but it's a projection of the decisions and the choices you made. So you can alternate and choose other and refine them, and then you try again. So first the faith, then the mentality, but the third that you need is speed. Speed is important. Like you say, do it now, don't do it tomorrow. Fail today, don't fail tomorrow. Try today, don't try tomorrow. When you do it today, you will forget the pain and the failure, only to awaken 5 years later. Maybe you've got a raptor, maybe you've got a team, maybe you've got an entire infrastructure, maybe you've got somebody who now believes in what you're doing. And there we go, the definition of success. So people differ in how they appreciate success. Yes, the material is important, but at times there are people who define success by the amount of networks they have. Why? Because those networks are now able to feed into what they initially want to do. Some view success as the material because some are purely people who are like Thomas. I don't believe unless I see. So if I'm making money, I need to see that Lexus LX570. I definitely got to see it, which is important. That's their definition of success. Some their definition of success is when I give to the rest of the people. I don't need to have, I want others to be in a position where we can grow together. So it all depends with how your mentality is fixed on the discourse to do with success.
Wow, that's
Yes.
quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm now inspired.
That
Never really thought about it, but from
glory to
what you're
God.
saying, I can actually say yes, this is quite phenomenal. I never thought that actually people can actually say, "I'm here to serve others." I'm here to work and I'm here to serve for others. I'm not here for myself, but I'm here for the rest of the team. So these people are quite rare, and honestly speaking, they're quite rare considering our geographical space. Here in Africa, we barely have those people, but in our age groups, yeah, we can actually have those people and we can actually collaborate with them and see how it goes. Now, I remember you Sunday, it was the two of us, we were coming from the Donell's Children's Home, and you highlighted the whole issue of knowledge being futile these days, but rather applied knowledge being more useful than knowledge itself. So it dawned on me. I actually took some time thinking about it and actually came to a point where I actually had to agree with what you were saying because we do have the knowledge, we do have the people, we do have the people who are actually involved in knowing and taking the time and doing their research. But apparently, it's like we're not going anywhere when we're not applying what we're actually doing. Because you look at Harare, it's like almost every weekend. There was a time when almost every weekend we were having these business conferences, talking to experts, learning from them, but nothing was coming up, nothing was sprouting. So applying knowledge, can you please highlight on that issue of applying knowledge, like what you know and putting into action?
All right. For this one, let me take you on a little bit of a personal journey. I think some years ago, I had a friend of mine, Samuel Bonongwe. He's the one who introduced to me to Mr. Tembekwayo's content. He said, "Don't you know what? I've discovered someone. You've got to listen to him." So I was like, okay, fine, let me listen to him. I listened to him a couple of times. I was like, okay. And then when I was listening to Mr. Tembekwayo, there's a part where he spoke that you need to pray and read. Right. So in doing that, I took up an interesting read. I started reading You Have a Brain by Dr. Ben Carson. It tells you about the phenomenal power of the mind to be able to extract information from the past, integrate it with the present, and project and prospect for the future. So as I was reading that book, I then thought that he speaks of the element of intake of information. But when you intake information for it to assimilate and to sink in, it has to be outputted. So I then asked myself that I'm listening to Mr. Tembekwayo is talking about entrepreneurship. I'm still in my teen years. What can I do? Do you know what I did? I was given, I think I had $20 during that time. It was very valuable. And then I contacted a gentleman. His name was called Harlequin. He was doing spices. You know the top chefs?
I remember that story.
Yes. And then I ordered $20 worth of spices and I put them in a bag. So remember the element that I told you about passion and the things you need to do to identify a gap. Trust me, I would walk around Belvedere because that's where I stay. I would walk around Belvedere with my lunch bag, a whole lunch bag with spices in it. So when I would approach people who I would see as my prospective clients, I wouldn't approach them and tell them that I'm selling spices. What I would do is I would engage with them in a conversation about the nation of Zimbabwe because it was something I was passionate about, something that you couldn't get me started about without giving you information, without giving you the trajectory. So I would talk. And because of my age, they would then marvel, who is this young man?
What's it doing?
What's it doing? What's up with this information? I'm like, wow, this is something that I'm passionate about, but I'm just walking around with my spices. I'll talk as if it's something that's unimportant, but that's the anchor of the conversation. They're like, oh, okay, let's see what you have in there. And then they would open, they're like, oh, you're actually selling? I'm like, yeah, I sell spices. They're like, wow, this is good. Okay, I'll have 1, 2, 3. And they would buy, not because they wanted the spice, but because they were amazed with the level of communication a teenage boy had at that time, the level of perspective. So, what then that taught me was it's not enough to know how to sell, it's not enough to know how your human brain works. Apply it, get to experience it. And the final thing is, when I then discovered that, I then had an epiphany, a revelation. And when it comes to information asymmetry, it comes to knowledge, we have layers. The most bottom layer is the layer of knowledge. Because where you have knowledge, we speak of the acquisition, that is where you get to learn. From the learning, we get to the stage where we speak of understanding. So you cannot say, I understand something when you haven't applied it. It doesn't work. Just because you have got, in my opinion, just because you have got a degree in something, I don't think you have the full right to say I understand it. Because that's information, that's knowledge. But have you applied it to see how the market is reacting to it?
It's been to the industry.
Exactly. So after applying, Not only once, not twice, but for a long period of time. That's when we can allow you to sit and say, you know what, I understand. But at the pinnacle of the hierarchy of knowledge, of information, of this process of learning, there sits wisdom. So, wisdom, unless it's divine, you can never get it young. You always get it when you're old. Why? Because wisdom speaks to the element first of learning. When you learn, you know. When you know, you understand by application. And the gap between understanding and wisdom is not of 4 decades, if we're being too kind. Why? Because you're now saying that I've seen things come and go. I've been present. I've observed how things have changed, how things have come in. I've lived in ages. I've seen how things work. Sit down and let me tell you. That's why there's a good African proverb that says, what an elderly man can see whilst set underneath an iroko tree, a young person, even when he stands on top, cannot see coming.
Wow.
Why? Because the elderly, even when they're sitting underneath the tree, they can see something coming. But you, as a young person, even when you go on top of an iroko tree, you can never see it coming.
Yes.
So that's where we need to have the convergence of the elderly people and the young people. That is the systems that have been established and the people that are coming in to be bequeathed the system and to take it to the next level. So that's the part that we then need to embrace, that knowledge is no longer power, but the application of knowledge is power. Knowledge has become so much ubiquitous. As they say, because they used to say that the amount of information that was produced every 3 hours was more than the amount of information that existed on the entire internet pre 2010. That was pre 2010. How about now?
How about now?
How much information is being produced per
50 years
hour?
later, exactly.
You see, so it means that information is there. Everybody knows. The next person doesn't know about something, Gemini. They don't know something, ChatGPT. We all know. Then what is it that is going to separate us?
Nothing.
The person who's going to be the first one to act. So you are there, you know something about public speaking, about a particular entrepreneurship venture, about a social entrepreneurship change. You want to form an organization. Yeah, that's good, you know. But who is going to be the first person to take action? That is what is going to separate us. Not the knowledge, not the information.
But applied knowledge. Wow, Donell, thank you so much, my brother.
I appreciate
Thank
for
you
having you.
so very much. Wow, this was so inspirational, and I hope our audience have actually got to get some nuggets from what you're saying. And yeah, let's see how it goes in terms of collaboration and engagement.
Precisely.
We have to build our country together as a team. We cannot
Precisely.
let the president or the cabinet do it alone without our help. So
Precisely
yes,
so.
thank you so much.
Precisely so.
Thank you so much.
I
Would
appreciate
you
it.
mind sharing your socials to our audience for those
All
who
right.
would like to reach out to you?
Okay, thank you so much. My socials for Instagram, Facebook, and X, it's at Munjeri Donell. That's MUNJERIDONELL, at Munjeri Donell. And for my LinkedIn, it's Donell Munjeri. For my TikTok, it's at official Munjeri Donell.
All right. Wow.
Yes.
All right. So people are definitely gonna count you for sure. I know for sure. So thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, guys.
A box
That
tick
was
now.
Donell Mujeri, my first guest for today. Let's see how it goes. And if you want to participate, if you want to be part of this show, please don't hesitate to send us a DM on Instagram. We're officially live. We're gonna send our Instagram or TikTok. It's gonna be open very soon. And yeah, if you want to reach out, you can definitely send us a DM. Thank you so much. All right, bro.